Good afternoon. This is Alan Salmon, and I want to welcome you to the first webinar after tax season. I trust those of you in public practice had an excellent tax season. A few announcements before we get started.
As we go, your microphone will be muted today. So to ask questions, you do that in the chat window. And speaking of notes, within 10 days of today, you're going to receive a package that will contain the webinar recording, my teaching notes, which are extensive, and all of the teaching files that I will be using today. In addition, you will be getting the answers to any questions that are asked. There isn't time in 26 minutes for me to answer any questions, and the same will happen with Ray at VohCom. So what we urge you to do is to enter your questions in the chat window, and my good friend Marilyn Benninger, who's backing me up today, will send me those questions and I will answer them, and everybody will get the answers to them. And finally, you will also get a certificate of attendance. And there will be 4 times today, including very shortly, where Marilyn is going to put up a polling question. For those of you that haven't been with me before, that's usually a 4-part multiple choice. And the answer doesn't matter. What matters is that you answer or check off one of the questions, because that time stamps your record, and we know that you were in attendance at that point in time. If you answer 75% of the polling questions, you will get a certificate for 1 hour of verifiable CPDs. If you don't, it'll be 1 hour of non-verifiable. And on that note, Marilyn, it is time for the first polling question.
Good morning again, everyone. You should be seeing a blue box, which represents our first poll question. It's multiple choice. Please select the configuration that best describes your firm's current server setup. No server, in-house, perhaps you have managed IT, you may be on a cloud-based server, or you may have another situation not listed. We close the poll when we hit 90%, and we're just about there, so I'm counting you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Closing the poll. And there are your results, Alan.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. And you're probably wondering why this question in an Excel session. Well, I'm researching this topic, and we have tentative plans in July to do a separate, an additional mini webinar on the issue of servers and how to manage them. So, close the poll, and on my screen, we have the first Excel file that I'm going to work with. Now, the focus today and next week is on functions, calculations. And I'm going to start off by doing something that I know all of you already know, and that is, whoops, let's get that back up there. And that is this. I have a simple formula here, sum of B6 to D6. And you all know that if I copy this down, I will get the correct answers because it will modify the calculations relatively. Some of you may not know this little trick. In the bottom of a selected cell, like the 31,106, I have a black square. If I touch that with my mouse pointer, I get a plus sign. And here's the fastest way to copy it down. What did I do? I double-clicked. And when I double-click, that's telling Excel, look to the left, and if there's something there, copy this formula down 1 cell. So it replicates it down below. And then you're all faced this situation. And by the way, this use tax rate, I should have changed it, is really HST or PST. And in here, I want to know what the HST is. Well, it's a very simple formula, as you know. Multiply this by this. However, if they then do the copy, it's going to say multiply this by this, and you all know that, and you know the solution is up here, is to lock down D8, D5 by putting in dollar signs. And most of you will know that this is multifaceted. So the first time that I do that, I get 2, 1, and 1. And by the way, it doesn't matter where in here I can put my cursor after the equal sign, between the D and the 5, or after. And of course, once we've done that, then, whoops, let me, oh, good answer, because guess what? Alan screwed up. So let's make this 2. There we go. There we go. So now that we got those 2 dollar signs and then we drag it down, we've got the correct answer. Now let's look at this one where life is a little bit different, because I'm dealing with 2 formulas here. So in this one, I'm multiplying C8, which is this, times this. Now, I don't want to lock down the row because I want it to change, so it gets that. But I do want to lock down this. So notice the formula there. It starts out C $8. And what that's going to do is not lock down whatever's in column C, but it will not change this when I go down. And then we get the second piece, we're multiplying it by B11. I don't want the column B to change, but I do want the row to change. And now when we copy it down, we get this, and of course, we get that. So that may be a quick review for some of you. It may be new, particularly on the mixed address. So let's not spend any more time on it. Let's move on to this. Now, this is a worksheet that has a lot of text in it because it is notes to a financial statement. If you look down here at cell E8, it fits in the cell because the cell height has been changed. But up here in the command line, I only get part of it. So I only get to related. There's a very simple way to expand the command line. You'll notice the upside down V there. Watch what happens when I click on it. And you notice that the space here for the command line has opened up. And it will open up always so that you have all of the text visible. So if you choose to edit, and I usually do this in the command line, that's a quick fix for that issue. All right, let's change the topic now and go into what I call date arithmetic. What I have here is a worksheet that's calculating the accrued interest on some notes that I hold. And I want to do the calculation for today's date. So I've done a setup here. I actually, in this column, have got the number of days of the year, and I'll explain why in a moment. So the calculation is this. And by the way, this plus sign doesn't have to be here. There we go. So we're taking A4 minus A8. So A4 is the date that I'm tracking, and A8 is the date issued. Now I'm going to deviate a bit, as I assume most of you know, Excel treats dates as a number. And any date is the number of days between January the 1st, 1900, and the date that you're checking. So I've done that up here. So for May 15th, Excel thinks it's 43,235. And for June 19th, it's 43,270. So the actual calculation here is that minus that, which is the number of days that the note has been outstanding. And then I divide that by what's in B6, which is the number of days in a year. And then the calculation is very simple. I multiply that by C8, which is the amount, and by D8. And there we go. Now, what happens if I change this date? So I only want the data for the first quarter. There we go. Now watch that number change when I hit enter. And if I had done this, there we go. So there's a neat use of what I call date arithmetic. It's not, I don't use it very often, but when I do, and I'll show you another example shortly, it's hugely important. Next. I'm going to deviate from this screen for a moment and make a point. There have been many research papers done on the use of Excel, and particularly the use in Excel and what we all do in calculations. And one of the ones that fascinated me was an MBA dissertation from a student at Harvard. And what he did was he audited 1,000 different spreadsheets from different companies, government, business, not-for-profits, and so on, and different sizes. And you can sum up his findings this way. 10% of those 1,000 worksheets could have been set up differently in the way of the structure, the way of the formatting. But, and here's the gotcha, between 1 and 2% had calculation errors, which made the spreadsheet useful. So one of the ways to minimize calculation errors is to follow this simple process. Enter the data once. And now let's move to this. You notice this sheet is called Assumptions, and the company name is GTM, fiscal year, fiscal date ended, and so on. So that is stuff that I'm going to use throughout my spreadsheet. Now, in most cases, I would simply refer back to here, but in this case, because I'm doing a financial statement, I have a secondary worksheet here. And There's the heading for my balance sheet. There's the heading for my income statement. If we look at this, assumptions B4. So that is referring to the company name. Balance sheet is fixed. That is coming from B6, the report date. Now, let's put this into practice. I'm going to go here and I'm going to change this to one of my company names. And I can spell today. There we go. So when I hit enter, that changes. And I'm also going to change the report date. And I'm going to change the report date to May 15, 2018. I'm not going to deal with inventory and depreciation. That's irrelevant to what I'm going to show you. Now let's move to here. And let's move to the balance sheet and the income statement. So do you understand what's happening? I put the stuff that I'm going to use in various worksheets or in various parts of a worksheet into an area called assumptions. If I have a lot of them, I will put them into a separate sheet. If I don't, I'll put them at the top of my main worksheet. And every time I need that, like here, I'm going to refer back. And the same thing on the balance sheet. There we go. So there is a really, really important issue for me. And that is what I'm doing is following the rule, enter the data once. And let me take a second swipe at that statement. I will never create a formula where I'm using a value in a number when I'm going to use that value in more than one. As soon as I need to use it twice, it's got to go in assumptions. Let's move on. Whoops, that's not the file I want. It's this one. Okay. Now there's nothing magic about this. This is the output from a trial balance in QuickBooks that I've exported to Excel. And if we look at cell A1 and all of A1, you'll notice that it outputs both the account number and the account name if I'm using account numbers in QuickBooks, which is a choice. However, that restricts my ability to do things like do a filter on an account number, do a filter on an account name. So what I'd really like to do is have 1,000 in cell A1 and checking in B1, like this. So on the left-hand side is the way it is now. But notice on the right-hand side that I've got the account numbers in column E, and I've got the account names. So the issue is, how did I do that? And I did it by using a couple of text formulas in Excel. This one's easy, all right? Because it's always a fixed length of 4 characters, I can use the left function. So we translate that formula up here in the command line as print the first, go to A5 and print the first 4 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a little more challenging, even though the formula is not all that long. So there is a function in Excel called equal len that stands for length. And what it does is returns a number or a value equal to the number of characters in a cell. And if you took the time to count from here to here, you'd find it's 15. And we're using the right text function, which says count from the right. So this says count the number of characters in A5, which is 15, and then subtract 7, which is the number of characters from here to here. And when you do that, print the results. So 15 minus 7 is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the same thing here. Now, that's a little hard to get your head around, but remember that in my notes, it's detailed, and you will have this file to play with. And then we get to this situation right here. Actually, I have a better file for that than this. There we go. We've got this situation. I got the first and last names here, but I got all the cities, province, and the area code here. And those area codes are dummies, by the way, so don't criticize me for that. And I want them in separate columns. And there's a really easy way to do that. I highlight them, I go to data, and I go to text to columns. And I get this screen. And the first thing I got to do is define the type of data. And in Excel, there are two types called delimited and fixed width. So the account numbers that I just showed you previously would be fixed width. City, province, and zip and postal code vary from cell to cell. So the limit is checked. I click on next, and now we need to define or tell Excel what is the delimiter. And the delimiter is what's between the city, the province, and the postal code. Well, it's obviously not a tab. It is a space. And you notice instantly, I now have city in one column, province, and so on, but I still have those stupid commas. So I'm going to select a comma as well, and bingo, they disappeared. There we go. Now I'm going to do a bonus here, so I'm going to undo this. And the bonus is something that those of you in Excel 2016 who are with me today can do. The rest of you will have to use text to columns. So I'm going to type, actually, I think it'll work if I copy it. I'm going to copy that to here. And then I'm going to start to type Hutchison. No, I got to do it, the whole thing for it to work, comma, AB, space, T0K. Whoops, how about we get a 0? 3 and 8. Bear with me. Let's type Loringer, comma, ON, space, A1C, 2K2. There we go. So what it's doing is it's looking at the data that I entered into C in the first column. And by the way, I forgot the space. If I'd put that in, the others would have changed. And then it fills in all the rest of the cells in that column that have something in B. And wouldn't that be cool if you had a spreadsheet with 1,000 names in it? Now, remember, this came into effect with Excel 2016. So the rest of you are confined to text to columns. And I'm going to wrap up today with this. And I'd love to know how many of you are using named ranges, but can't do that. So I'm going to show you what a named range is. I'm going to put my cursor on cell C6. Now you would expect up here that it would say cell C6, and it doesn't. It says tax rate. Why? Because I wanted that as in what Excel calls a named range. So the fastest way to create a range name is just to go to the cell, and I'll do this one, which says A9, and type in sales. And if we go here, we now have tax rate and sales. Watch it jump. And you're going to say, why would you do that? Well, let's go down here and let's calculate the taxes. And I'm going to say equal tax rate times sales. Bingo, I'm done. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What's the big deal? Because, Alan, you could have typed in equal that times that. But what happens if this is at the top of a spreadsheet and I'm doing the calculation at row 1,000 or on another sheet? Can you see the value of creating them? Now, if I'm going to go and highlight these and show you another trick. If I go to formulas, over here in the defined names, I have the name manager. And in it, it shows me all my named ranges, and I can edit and delete them. Also, I could define a name. What I'm going to do here is go to Formulas, Create from Selection. Now it wants to know where the names are that I want to name. Well, they're in the left-hand column. Okay. Yes. So now let's go here. And you notice that sales is there, GM is there. So when I'm building a spreadsheet and I'm going to use all of these in formulas wherever in the workbook, I will go in and use that trick. And on that note, Marilyn, I think it's time for me to shut up. I'll be back in a bit, and it's time for my second poll.
Awesome, Alan. I always enjoy peeking in on these sessions. I learned so much. So folks, you should see the second poll on your screen. We're asking how often do you use the formulas you see there, if else, or if error functions. Hopefully more than never after today's session. Sometimes once in a while, hopefully you've learned a little bit and you won't be struggling in the future, or you could be an ace just like Alan. Pretty quick off the mark, everyone. Today we're already at 90%, so I'm going to be closing the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Polls are closed, and there are your results, Alan.
Okay, for the 44% of you that never use them and once in a while, this is a lead in to what I'm going to do next week. And I'm going to hopefully clearly identify the importance of those functions and when to use them and how to use them. And on that note, I'm going to ask you, Marilyn, to do a handoff to Ray.
Absolutely. So Ray, I'm just going to make you the presenter. Your screen has been unmuted.
Okay, great.
We
you see
do
me?
hear. I hear you. I don't see you just yet.
Show my screen. There we go.
Perfect. You have the comm. Let me know when you want your first poll.
Okay. Yeah, you can. Is the GoToMeeting interface over top of my screen? Is it
No, it is
blocking?
not. Nope, you're all
Okay,
good.
great. My name is Ray Francis. I'm the marketing manager from VohCom Software, and I'm here to show you how to accelerate your practice using our software VohCom Page. Page is a practice management and workflow software designed to create a more efficient way to do business in an accounting practice. With Page, we brought old school concepts of how a paper file and office workflow works and tried to bring them into a new technology. We took the familiarity of a paper file and the in and out boxes on your desk and incorporated them into a digital interface. What you're looking at here is called the action list. The action list was designed to take the inbox on your desk and display it on your computer monitor. Each user in your office has their own action list. This is a collection of engagements, projects, or tasks for your client. We consider an engagement to be anything that you want to track time to and somewhere to accumulate documentation about the task. It's very similar to what a paper file would have been, somewhere to accumulate correspondence, copy of tax returns, and notes about the engagement. Digitalizing it, however, makes it far more agile and easy to use. In the action list, we provide an at-a-glance view of the work that you're currently working on, work that you would plan to do over the next few days, or maybe for a few superstar clients, work that you would plan on completing that day. The action list may also contain work that you need to schedule to do at a later time, or work that you're waiting for someone else to do their part before you can do yours. By right-clicking on any of the items on this action list, I get a number of items, including to pen the work or to schedule the work. If I'm waiting for someone else to do a part of their job before I can do mine, I would pen the work. If I know that I just don't have time to work on this project, it's not a priority for me, I can schedule the work to another date. I can select the date that I want it to come back into my action list. And I can save it. This sends it to a scheduled list. However, it'll come back into my action list on the date that I specified. Now, we have all these columns here. We have the last from column. That's who sent you the work. That's who put the file into your inbox. The account number is the numeric account for the client. The client name is actually what you see here is an alias for the client name. We do have the client's legal name in the system that's available for invoicing. We have a description column, which does two things. It provides a description of the work that you're going to be doing. However, if you double click on an engagement, you can have a look at the last few tasks. If you mouse over a description, you can see the last few tasks that were done on this engagement. In this instance, we can see that Brian Calvin sent work to Fiona Prep asking her to contact the client regarding some data. We always have the year-end date available. We have the critical date, the target date, and the personal date. The critical date is a filing deadline. The target date is a service deadline for your firm. And a personal deadline is when you need to be completed work on this engagement. The viewed on is the last time the engagement was accessed. The budget is the budget information for the engagement. The WIP is the accumulated WIP for this engagement, and the AR is the accumulated accounts receivable for the entire client. Now, down at the bottom of the page, we have what's called a workflow ribbon. This allows us to track important milestones or dynamic action points that pertain to this particular engagement. Here we can always see the status of the job and very easily allow for us and for our coworkers to know where we are on this engagement. Now, while the action list is an accumulation of work that you're currently working on, the client all page, let's select the client here, The Client All page provides you with detailed information about a specific client. In the Client All page, you will find everything you need to know about the client. There is a list of current engagements that are being worked on, including their WIP, budget, and expenses. In addition, the invoices for this client are available on the bottom right-hand corner. So if I click on any of these invoices, it'll open the invoice. It'll allow me to reprint a copy of the invoice for my client, or I can email the invoice directly to my clients as well. If I need more information about the engagement details and the information that regarding this invoice, I can double click on the invoice, and it will actually open the engagement detail regarding this particular engagement. So I have all of the notes regarding the information on this side, all the files that regarded it on the right-hand side, and I even have all the budget details, the write-up and the write-down available to me as well. Our statement of accounts work the same way. You can go into each statement, you can reprint the statement, you can email it to your client, or you can drill down into the engagement detail like we did with the invoice. We also have an email history. This is an emailed history of tracking of statements that you sent to your clients. We also have collection notes that you can use when your client does pay. And you can save that on their file for future reference. Over to the left of that, we have a number of information about your client and the status of this client. You have the accounts receivable, you have the WIP, you have the accumulated expenses. You also have the interest that's separated from the accounts receivable, and then you have the total AR and interest for this client. In addition to that, we have what's called the performance index. This is a value of the invoiced amount over the WIP, and this gives you an accurate recovery value of your client. Now, when we go inside of an engagement, it opens up very similar to a paper file. Over on the left-hand side, we have any and all notes and information that we want to keep about the engagement. We have three types of notes that we can add to the engagement. We have an appended note, which is a general note that everyone can see that's not specifically assigned to a person in your firm. We have a work note. This allows you to send a note to one of your coworkers, and it'll require that the note comes up in their action list so they see that they need to do something. A review work works very similarly to a work note in that you send the review note to a specific person. However, it will be sent in blue and noted on their action list in blue so that they know that it's a review as opposed to a regular work note. Over on the right-hand side, we have all of the files regarding this engagement through the paperclip button here. We can save any files that we want and link them right here into the engagement. We have the default settings so that we have a tab for work in progress, a tab for files that have been sent to your client, and a tab that's been for files received from your client. We also have a number of customizable tabs. If you have a client that has a specific issue that you need to keep files separated for, where that would be a benefit. You can keep these special files separated as well. If you need to create an Excel file or a Word document, you can do that directly from here. You can actually create a blank Excel document, or you can create one from a template. And you can do the same thing with Word as well. File name already exists. And here I have this new file available for me. It'll open up. I can make whatever changes I need to make to the Excel document. And then when I close it and save it, I can send it. It'll be available for my coworkers to use, or I can send it to them for additional work. Now from here, I can also initiate the process for sending work to my coworkers or to my clients. If I want to send work to a specific coworker, I can click on the work button here. I can select that, the person I'm sending the work to. And I can even reference files. So here I'll reference the file that I just created. I'll put a note to my coworker. And this will push the note to their action list with a reference to that specific file. Now, if I'm sending work to one of my clients, or if I'm sending an email to a client, I can do that directly from this window as well. I can click on the Send Email button to send a general email. I can select the email available from their client list, and that will create the email directly in Outlook. In this case, I won't send it. I can also right-click any of the files in the engagement window and select Send To. That will again bring me up to this interface where I can select who I want to send to. We also have your Outlook templates saved into or connected to Page, so you can select a template and then create the email. And in this case, you can just add a subject line. And push it out to the client. Now, if you're sending confidential information to your client, you're going to want to use our secure file sharing portal called vShare. What vShare does is it sends an email to your client letting them know that you have sensitive information that you have sent them and that they have to go to a secure file sharing server in Canada to download that information. Here we'll select the file. We'll go Upload to vShare. It'll let me know the files, the description of the files from email that they're getting the email from. I can select the email here on who I want the email to go to. If I want to set a password, I can do so here, and I can specify how long I want the files to remain on the server. If a client doesn't go in and download their files, they really shouldn't be remaining up on the server for an indeterminate amount of time. So we allow you to specify the number of days and what happens when the client downloads the files. We have a number of presets that you can use before sending out the file. And once you populate this with your own text, you can send out the file to your client, and they will get an email notifying them that they have to click on the link, download files, and if needed, they can also upload files through that interface as well. Now we have a client information button available in the engagement window as well as in the client all screen. Now the main page here provides you with the name, address, and the contact details for the client. The Contacts tab is where you'll find the information about the contacts for this client. If the contact is also a personal client, you'll be able to view their social insurance and date of birth here as well. The Staff tab displays the staff from your office that are responsible for this client. The Executive tab displays the name and office held for the directors. The banker's information, if populated, can be used to create bank confirmations on behalf of your clients. It's more than likely that if one of your clients is using a specific bank, that many of your clients are using that bank as well. And so when you update the banking information for one of your clients, all of the clients using that bank, all of the information will be updated on all of the clients that you have. The legal and professional section works the same way. You have that information available to you here. The knowledge of client's business is an area for you to populate information on an annual basis. So you always have not only historical information about your client, but the most up-to-date and accurate information as well. The notes section is where you can keep general and permanent notes. What you consider to be a general and permanent note is entirely up to you. You may want to keep notes on personal things about your client. They might have a child who is about to graduate and you want to ask them about it the next time you talk to them, and you can keep those types of notes here. The legal section provides the type of ownership for a company. We have the ownership, the investment, and we also have links to documents such as the incorporation certificate. You can have all of that access here. Once you fill out the shares, the share registers, and the indirect relationships, and this initially is a bit time consuming, you can initiate a diagram that will show you how all of the interconnected relationships work. The Dates tab are for important dates. The Numbers tab are usually for passwords and special numbers that you're keeping on behalf of your clients. The Permanent file are permanent files that you're going to keep on the client's account. The Published files are files that have been published and filed on the client's behalf. And the Securities tab allows you to specify who in your office gets to see what information about this client. Now we have 9 application buttons here, which provide you quick application buttons here, which provide you access to other applications that you use regularly, or links to documents or websites that you need to go to. For instance, the CRA button here, we can set it up to go to a number of pages on CRA's website, including Represent a Client. And so while you're working on this engagement and going and representing your client on CRA's website, the time is still being automatically tracked to this particular engagement. You'll notice up at the top here, there's a running clock. This clock tends to reset a few times while you're working on the engagement, depending how long you've been in the engagement or what tasks you're doing. However, at the end of the day, you'll have an accurate understanding of how much time you spent within this engagement. Now that covers off the engagement page, but what happened to all the time I spent working today? In my timesheet, I will see each engagement that I accessed and a number of other entries. Page lets me know what I was working on throughout the day and how long I was working on it, but I also need to verify the information. In this scenario, what you're seeing is all the time I spent doing demonstrations this morning and the time I spent in each engagement. For any of these entries, I have the ability to edit or add additional information. For instance, if I was working on an engagement and someone came by the office, I ended up talking to them for 30 minutes, I can edit that information here. Similarly, if I went out to a lunch meeting and I need to track that on my timesheet, I can add that. And save it here as well.
Hey, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
While you're talking about tracking time, let's just insert our next poll question.
I was going to say, I'm almost done my presentation, so we can do our poll questions now.
We've got 2, so let's do the third one.
Okay,
folks. We're asking in this poll question, how does your firm currently track time? You might have an accounting practice software product. Some people use Excel. Other folks use some software that they've purchased specifically for the task. And some are maybe still doing it manually. 85% already, Ray. We've struck a nerve. We're nearly at 90%. So I'm going to count you down, folks, from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I have to close the poll now at 90, and we'll just share those results. Look at that, Ray. 36% aren't using any software at all. They're tracking their time manually. And some may be on that other side as well.
That's consistent with what we find, and using a software application is always more accurate.
Terrific. I'm just going to give you back to your screen. You should see your screen now. Go ahead.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to show you, and I'll go over it very briefly, is the reporting in Page. The reporting in Page is extensive. We have client data reports, income reports, WIP reports, timesheet reports, workflow, and much more. An example of one report will be the client report. It's a client list report, and we can edit this report and customize it and save it any way that you want. In this instance, I might want to sort this report by partner. I can just drag that up there. I can also sub-filter by manager, and it would allow me to save the template and access that in the future. We also have numerous period end reports, accounts receivable reports, WIP reports, contribution reports, and time reports. And so you should have all of the reporting needs taken care of for your firm with our software. Now, just in summary, Page was designed in an accounting practice with the input from all members of that practice. That allowed for us to address the challenges in the accounting firm from all angles, from all levels of the accounting firm. And using Page will allow you to accelerate your practice. Marilyn, do you want to do the final poll question?
Absolutely, Ray. So folks, you should see a poll on your screen now. You're tracking your time, but how confident are you in the accuracy of your firm's time tracking? Very confident, somewhat. Uh-oh, not confident. Or maybe you're a sole proprietor and you have a method that works for you. 85% already. Time's very important to the folks on the call today. We're going to cut you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thanks everyone for your responses. There are your results, Ray.
All right. Somewhat confident, 49% somewhat confident, and 11% not confident.
Oops. I'm going to give you back your screen.
Okay, great. That is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions or if you'd like a demonstration of the software, feel free to give us a call at 1-888-857-3864, or you can request a demonstration at VohCom.com. That's VohCom.com.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate your time today. Alan, are you on the line for wrap up? Alan, we can't hear you.
I certainly am. How's that?
Much better. I've made you the presenter.
And I'm sharing my screen.
Perfect.
Well, just to wrap up for today, I want to thank all of you for attending. When you log out or exit from the webinar, we've got a short quiz or survey for you to do, and we would appreciate you taking 2 minutes to fill that out. It gives us direction for our next series of webinars. Just a couple of things. Next week, I will continue on with advanced functions. And then in June, we're doing 3 webinars, 2 of which will be on Excel, but I'm doing a 3rd one on PowerPoint, which I hope will be interest to all of you. So that's a wrap, folks. Thank you very much.